Hey, I'm Tyler, 27 years old. My family. They always say I'm the serious one, not much for drinking. Parties aren't really my thing. I'm the one who ends up doing all the organizing, you know? The responsible one. At least that's what they say until it's time to actually show some appreciation. This Easter, though, I had a feeling it would be different. For once, I figured maybe I'd actually feel like I belonged, instead of feeling like their unpaid assistant. It all started a few weeks before. My dad, Frank, called out of the blue. We're not exactly close, haven't been since he got remarried. But he sounded so upbeat, almost excited. He said it was gonna be a huge Easter gathering, everyone was coming, and he thought I could help with the prep. At first, I was just thrilled he actually thought of me. Sounds pathetic, I know, but that's how low the bar had been for years. He just laid it all out: tables, chairs, food, decorations, stuff for the kids, even an egg hunt. And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. I had some extra money saved, and a tiny part of me hoped this was a genuine invite, not just another chore disguised as family bonding. So I dove right in. I booked tables and chairs from a rental place a couple towns away. I ordered the food, nothing fancy, but good enough to please everyone. I even bought a ton of those plastic Easter eggs, filled them with candy, and planned out a whole egg hunt in my dad's huge backyard. That whole week, every free minute I had was spent getting everything ready. I even made little name cards for everyone. I was really trying. I figured maybe this time they'd finally see me, not just be there in the background, you know? Easter morning, I was up before sunrise, packing my car with everything I needed. It was a 45-minute drive to my dad's, and I got there way before anybody else. I spent the whole morning just setting everything up, hauling tables to the backyard, putting out chairs, arranging the decorations, making sure the food was all good to go. By the time noon hit, I was a sweaty mess. My back was killing me and I was wiped out, but I was also proud. It looked pretty good, like a real family thing, not some thrown-together mess. Then the kids started showing up with their folks, running around and giggling when they found the Easter eggs I'd hidden, tucked behind the flowers and under the trees. For a split second, I let myself think I'd actually done something right. And then lunch. Everyone gathered around the tables, talking and laughing. I sat next to my half-sister, Emily. She's 16, super quiet, but she picks up on way more than she lets on. As we passed the food around and started telling stories, I saw my dad stand up, tapping his glass to get everyone's attention. "Before we eat," he said, raising his beer, "I just want to say it's great to have everyone here. Real family, you know. Feels like old times." Everyone cheered, clinking their glasses. I just kind of smiled a little awkwardly, not even sure if he meant me to be included in that. That's when it hit me. He swung around like he'd just remembered I existed and let out this huge laugh that everyone could hear. And then there was Tyler, the extra guy. "Try not to mess things up today, kid," he said. Those words hit me hard. My stepmother, Sharon, gave this little smirk and took a sip of her drink without saying anything. Some people offered polite chuckles. Emily kept her eyes on her plate. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell or start crying or run off. I just stood up. Quietly, without making a scene, I didn't even bother with my plate. I walked through the yard, past all the tables and decorations I'd set up, past the egg hunt prizes and the coolers filled with drinks that I'd bought. All the way to my car, which was parked in the driveway. Sitting there with the door open, keys in my hand, this slow fire began to build in my chest. It wasn't the raging, blinding kind of anger that makes you do dumb things. No, this was cold. It was sharp. It was focused. That's when it hit me. They didn't see me as family. They never had. I was just something they could use until I wasn't. Until it was easier to make me look bad than to thank me. That's when I made up my mind. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the rental agreements, every single table and chair out there. My name was on the contracts and the catering order was paid for with my credit card. Even the egg hunt. I had all the receipts. Everything they were enjoying was because of me. If they thought I was just an extra, they were about to find out how crucial that extra really was. I dealt the rental company first. I was lucky, you know. I knew the guy who owned the rental place. Small towns have their advantages, so I called him up, told him the whole story, how those event planners were being total jerks, and I needed that stuff gone, like right now. He didn't even hesitate, said he'd have a truck there within an hour. Then I rang the caterers and told them to cut it out, no more food. Turns out they hadn't even gotten to the good stuff yet. All the cakes, cookies, and that chocolate fountain, the whole shebang everyone was waiting for. I just told them to cancel the order. A refund wasn't happening, but honestly, I didn't give a damn. That was their problem now. After that, I snuck around to the side of the house. I'd hidden the main prize for the egg hunt there, this giant basket overflowing with toys, candy, and gift cards for the kids. I grabbed it, threw it in my car, slammed the door shut. I sat there for a minute, engine running, just watching the party from afar, seeing the kids run to the prize table only to find it empty. Seeing Sharon's face, that confused, pinched look when the caterer didn't bring out more food. Seeing my dad start to look around, all worried and frowning, realizing something was seriously off. I could have stayed, watched the whole thing go down, but I didn't. I just backed out of the driveway real slow, kind of enjoying the moment, and drove away. No screaming matches, no big dramatic scene, just quiet. Of course, that wasn't the end of it, not by a long shot. That was the breaking point, the instant everything started to fall apart. All the things they'd always counted on, the stuff they just assumed would always be there, started disappearing. And I wasn't even around when the whole mess finally blew up. The first call came about 15 minutes after I got on the highway. I ignored it, then another, and another, my dad, him. Sharon, my step-uncle, even Emily, though her message was just a soft, "Tyler, I think something's up. Please call me." I almost picked up hers, but not yet. Not until the others learned a lesson they couldn't just ignore or pretend didn't happen like they always did. I parked in a little diner's lot right off the exit, the kind with the squeaky vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been on the warmer all day. I got a burger and a Coke and sat by the window watching the messages blow up my phone. It was almost ridiculous. Dad texted, "Tyler, where are you? The tables are gone. What's happening?" Sharon texted, "If this is your idea of a joke, it's not funny. Bring everything back now." Dad texted, "You're making a fool of yourself. Get back here and fix this." Dad again, "Grow up." It was almost funny to see their messages go from confused to angry to kind of insulting, and then little by little into full-blown panic. Sharon texted, "The kids are crying. There's no food left. The parents are getting mad." Dad texts, "So the rental truck finally showed up. They were hauling away all my stuff, everything I'd managed to get together before they completely wrecked things." I just kinda scrolled through my phone, sipping a Coke, didn't even bother replying. Seriously, they were doing a great job screwing themselves over all on their own. For once, I wasn't the one cleaning up their messes after they'd acted like total jerks. My phone rang again, Aunt Karen. I ignored it. Then I checked the family group chat, total chaos. "Anyone got extra chairs?" Uncle Rob typed. Sharon chimed in, "Food's almost gone." "Then no desserts on its way," she added. Dad threw in, "This is so embarrassing. People are leaving." And finally, "Where's Tyler?" I leaned back, grinning to myself. It was almost too perfect. Their big, braggy Easter celebration, the one they'd been talking about for weeks, completely falling apart. All because of me, the extra they'd always ignored. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Emily. This message actually made me pause. It said, "I'm so sorry, you didn't deserve that. Please just let me know you're okay." My chest tightened up. Emily was different, always had been. She never joined in when Dad made fun of me. She didn't give me that fake Sharon smirk. She just sat there, all red-faced and embarrassed, avoiding my eyes. And now she was reaching out, probably stuck in the middle of that whole mess, feeling as awkward as I always did. For a split second, I considered going back for her sake. But I couldn't, not now. Going back would mean throwing away the only thing I'd ever accomplished, standing up for myself. I wasn't going to be their doormat anymore, so I fired off a quick text. "I'm fine, don't sweat it." Then on a whim, I added, "You're better than all of them, don't let them change you." I put my phone face down on the table and ate my food, ignoring the constant buzzing and vibrating. I paid with cash, left a huge tip, and walked out into the nice afternoon, feeling lighter than I had in forever. When I finally got home an hour later, the buzzing had finally stopped. I figured they'd given up or were probably arguing about it all. Knowing my dad and Sharon, it was probably a huge fight with lots of yelling and nobody taking responsibility. I tossed my keys, kicked off my shoes, and just crashed on the couch. For the first time in ages, I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel insignificant. I didn't feel like a failure. I just felt, well, free. It was later that night when the real drama started. I was flipping channels, barely paying attention to some show about deep-sea fishing, when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a Facebook notification. Sharon had posted a crazy status, tagging almost everyone in the family. Honestly, some folks are just so self-absorbed and small-minded that they'll wreck a family get-together just to get attention. If you're one of those people, I'm done with you. The comments section was a total disaster. Aunt Karen chimed in, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" Uncle Rob posted something like, "You're better off without toxic people, Sharon." Some random cousin I barely knew even commented, "Family is supposed to support each other, not try to ruin everything." For a second, I thought about responding. I even rehearsed a few replies in my head. But in the end, I just shut my phone off and threw it on the coffee table. Let them stew in their own mess, trying to figure out why the party they'd been bragging about for ages fell apart. They could try to spin the story however they wanted online. The people who were actually there, they knew the truth. They saw the tables being taken away. They saw the food never show up. They saw Sharon's forced smile crack and my dad stomping around like a little kid throwing a tantrum. No Facebook post could change that. I figured that would be the end of it. That they'd just stay angry, maybe stop inviting me to family stuff, like I cared, and eventually move on. I was so wrong. Because the next day, things spiraled into something we never saw coming. And when it all went down, it wasn't just my dad and Sharon dealing with the fallout. The whole family got dragged into it. The next morning, I woke up to my phone vibrating like crazy on the coffee table. And it wasn't just the usual few notifications, either. This never-ending buzzing was driving me crazy, like a nest of hornets right outside my window. Half asleep, I grabbed my phone, figuring it was just more stupid Facebook crap. Probably Sharon ranting again, or Dad trying to lay a guilt trip on me. But this was different. It was blowing up with missed calls, voicemails, texts, all from people I hadn't talked to in ages. Cousins, second cousins once removed, even a couple of those family friends I vaguely remembered from childhood cookouts. It felt like my entire extended family had suddenly rediscovered my phone number. Some messages were short, frantic bursts. "Tyler, call me ASAP." Others were longer, angrier, filled with accusations I couldn't even begin to make sense of. Totally lost, I opened one from my cousin Jake. "Dude, what the heck did you do? Grandpa's on the warpath. He's pulling all his money. Dad's getting cut off. Sharon's freaking out. Call Grandpa, man." I just stared at the screen, dumbfounded. Grandpa Harold, my dad's dad, was old money, stubborn as a mule and the absolute king of the family. He pretty much bankrolled half my aunts and uncles, keeping them in line with a mix of cash, guilt, and pure force of will. He wasn't exactly Mr. Warmth, but he hated looking bad. Family get-togethers were all about appearances for him, a chance to present this perfect, united front to the world. And whatever went down yesterday hadn't just messed up Easter, it had somehow gotten back to him. As I was reading Jake's message, another one popped up, this time from Aunt Linda, my dad's sister. She never texted me unless she wanted something. So she texts me, "You're such a jerk, hope you're thrilled." Then bam, Grandpa's pulling the plug on the whole beach house thing. Thanks for screwing it all up. I just sat there, staring at my phone, completely bewildered. A beach house? Oh yeah, a few months back, Grandpa was talking about helping Dad and Sharon and a few other relatives buy a place at the beach, you know, a shared thing. Like I'd ever get an invite unless they needed someone to clean up their mess. The plan was, Grandpa would loan them the money if they proved they could handle it. It was all about appearances, really. Looking good, being respectable. Then Easter happened. Total disaster. Half the people bailaid early, the food ran out before anyone was full, the kids were crying, and the rental place showed up to take back the stuff right in the middle of the egg hunt. I scrolled down and saw a screenshot, an email chain between Grandpa Harold and my dad, CC'd to like half the family. Grandpa's email said, "Frank, after yesterday's complete chaos, I've changed my mind about helping out financially. This family clearly lacks leadership, planning, and any basic respect. I'm taking back my offer, effective immediately." Man, that stung. Then, right underneath, was my dad's panicked reply. I was so low, making up excuses, blaming everything but myself. Then Grandpa hit me with that one killer line about leadership being about fixing problems, not pointing fingers. Wow, I thought. That was something else coming from the guy who usually sounds like he's reading a business letter from 1850, but one that's totally on fire. It all clicked then. All those frantic calls, my inbox exploding with panic. It wasn't about the missing chairs and tables. No, they were freaking out because their money, their fancy status, their whole image, everything they worshipped came crashing down because they couldn't resist taking a cheap shot at me in public. The irony? Brutal, and so sad. Speaking of sad, Dad finally texted me around noon. "Tyler, we need to talk. Things got crazy yesterday, but you can't just disappear when family needs you. We can fix this. Grandpa just needs to see we're all on the same page. Let's meet. We'll explain everything, you apologize, and we can move on." I read it 3 times, thinking I was dreaming. Me apologize to that guy? The one who laughed in my face, humiliated me in front of everyone, treated my work like it was nothing. I had to apologize. It was so crazy I almost burst out laughing. I didn't answer. Not him, not Sharon, nobody. So I just shut off my phone and went on with my day. I went for a walk, got some ice cream from the little shop down the street, and watched some cheesy comedy on Netflix. It was the most relaxing Easter Monday I'd had in ages, but that wasn't the end of it, not by a long shot. 'Cause later that night, when I finally checked my phone, I had a voicemail from Emily. Her voice was all shaky, real quiet. She said, "Hey, Tyler." I'm really sorry about everything. I tried to defend you, but nobody would listen. Grandpa's furious. Dad's blaming you for everything, but I know you didn't do anything wrong. Just be careful, okay? That last bit, be careful, really got to me. At first, I figured she meant they'd just keep piling on the guilt or spreading more lies. But something about how she sounded all tight and scared, like she knew something I didn't, it just wouldn't leave me alone. And you know what? Emily was totally right to be worried. Because the next thing my dad and Sharon pulled, it wasn't just some small, mean thing. It was all-out war. And this time, they were about to find out I wasn't some pushover they could just walk all over anymore. I barely slept after hearing that message from Emily. Her voice kept playing in my head, that fear in every word. By morning, I decided I was done waiting around. If my family was up to something, I needed to be ready. I spent the whole morning getting everything organized, getting prepared. I saved every single text, voicemail, and receipt proving I'd paid for that Easter thing. I copied the rental agreements and catering bills, too. Even dug up my bank statements showing all the charges. I wasn't gonna walk into a fight unprepared, you know? Around midday, I got my first hint of what they were planning. A letter showed up in my mailbox, no stamp. Someone had dropped it off. My heart just dropped when I saw Frank Patterson, my dad, scrawled on the top. I opened it right there on the porch, my hands shaking. It wasn't handwritten, all official and typed up. The whole thing was ridiculous. It said I'd wrecked the family get-together, trashed their reputation, and then get this, they accused me of stealing, said I'd taken the egg hunt prizes from the backyard. They were threatening to sue me in small claims court over a bunch of candy and cheap toys from the dollar store. I went inside, chuckling to myself. It was so pathetic, so unbelievably embarrassing, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. But then I remembered Sharon's smirk, my dad's nasty laugh. How not a single grown-up in that yard had said a word to defend me. They hadn't treated me like family, not at all. They treated me like a pawn, a punchline. And now they wanted to sue me to save face? Okay, fine, game on. I spent the next 3 days getting ready. I even talked to a lawyer. This wasn't some fancy lawyer, just a regular guy, a buddy of a friend, who dealt with this kind of small claims craziness all the time. He just cracked up when I showed him that letter, said it was like a total legal tantrum, you know. He helped me write a serious reply. I added all my paperwork and told them straight up that if they kept pushing it, I'd sue them back for everything, the costs, the damage to my reputation, and the emotional wreck they made me. And because I get really thorough when I'm ticked off, I also wrote Grandpa Harold a super detailed letter. No yelling, no insults, just the facts, a step-by-step of what happened, copies of all my bills, proof I paid for everything, and a calm explanation that I only took back what was mine. 2 days later, after they'd made a public fool of me, poof, the lawsuit threat vanished. No sorry, no nothing, just radio silence. They figured if they quietly backed down, I'd just forget about it. But the harm was already done. Grandpa Harold called me himself that Sunday. At first, I almost didn't answer. I just stared at my phone, almost letting it go to voicemail, but my curiosity won. "Tyler," he said, all gruff-like when I finally picked up. "I got your letter." He paused. Then he said, "I want you to know you acted with way more class than the whole rest of that bunch. I'm sorry you had to go through that." It wasn't a big, mushy apology. Grandpa Harold wasn't one for showing feelings, but coming from him, it meant the world. He cleared his throat. "Okay, so things are about to change. I've been rethinking some stuff." The conversation didn't last long. Grandpa never really was one for long talks, but when I got off the phone, I was seriously trembling. It wasn't just about being proven right, either. It was something way more profound than that. I'd spent ages just trying to get them to see me, trying to get them to recognize that I was more than just background noise, that I actually mattered. And now? Well, now they wouldn't have a choice. The consequences were swift and rough. A couple of weeks later, I started hearing rumors from different relatives. Grandpa had changed parts of his will, not drastically, though. He was still leaving stuff to his kids, but with some serious cuts. Huge chunks were now going to charities, and a separate trust fund was being created for the younger grandkids, Emily included, basically cutting out Sharon, my dad, and their crowd entirely. The summer house project? Gone. Those yearly family trips that Grandpa used to pay for? Canceled, which was rough for them, really. Anyway, Grandpa made it crystal clear that any future financial help would depend on them actually performing, meaning no more free money. If they wanted any help, they'd have to show they could be responsible without making the family look bad. And guess who he made the trustee, the one in charge of overseeing the grandkids' fund? Me. Tyler, the one who was always on the outside. The news hit my family like a bomb. I didn't brag or anything. I didn't put up any subtle little posts on Facebook or send any snarky texts. I just went about my life, Finally at peace, free from that invisible chain that had me on for years. Emily texted a couple times after everything went down. She was super careful, probably paranoid someone was snooping on her phone. But her messages were sweet, really thankful. She said she was proud of me, that she wanted a life way different than the one she grew up with. I believed her, I really did. We started grabbing coffee now and then, just chatting quietly about her college plans, her dreams of escaping all the craziness at home. I helped her open a savings account, looked into scholarships for her little stuff. Stuff nobody in that family would ever do unless the cameras were rolling. As for the rest of them, haven't heard a peep from Sharon or my dad in ages. No birthday card, no Christmas text, not even one of those fake thinking of you posts. It's like I disappeared from their world. And you know what? Good, let them sit there in the mess they made. Let them try to explain to anyone who asks why their golden child isn't around anymore. Let them just stew in it, knowing that the person they treated like nothing was the one who finally hit the off switch. Sometimes I drive by my dad's house on my way home from work. Not to be nosy, just the backyard still has those tire tracks where the rental truck ripped up the grass, taking away all their patio stuff. The garden's a jungle now, the whole place just looks sad and empty. I don't crack a grin when I think about it, but I'm not upset either. I did everything I could, tried so hard to be part of their world. They went their own way, and I went mine. I'm not on the outside looking in anymore. I'm the one who left, you know? And honestly, I'm done with that chapter. I'm never going back.